what elements are in the starlight we're seeing here. You look at our suns, and we have all kinds of elements from the periodic table, because it was made with all of those elements. When it formed, it was made from the previous supernovae like we just saw. And that previous supernovae stuff ended up becoming the star stuff that our sun was built from. So here, these stars, when we look at the star stuff that is within them, all we see is hydrogen and helium and maybe a few other trace elements. But the hydrogen gas is the most common gas in the entire universe. It's the most copious. There's more hydrogen than anything else. Helium is second, oxygen third, carbon fourth. So when you look at this and you say, hey, this hydrogen is making helium in these stars. What else is in these stars? We find that they don't have very much of anything else. And that tells us that they were made when the universe didn't have much of anything else in it. In other words, before there were any supernovae. See? And that is something that has been a topic of great debate and study over the last 100 years. What makes these tick? Yeah.
How do you know what elements? Is it by color?
No, she said, how do you know what the elements are? Have you ever seen a diffraction grating? You hold them up to your eye and it makes like a rainbow. Okay. Well, if you have one of those, we do, a professional one, and you put it in front of a starlight, it'll break the starlight up into its component colors. And it also shows lines in the spectrum because the star's atmosphere is absorbing some of the energy of the outbound starlight. And those lines you see are fingerprints of the stars. And we see different elements from the periodic table in there. We can identify hydrogen, helium, carbon, potassium. Okay? You can see the lines of these and figure it out. And one of the things I did getting the degree in astronomy was I classified lots of stars and figured out from that, broken up light from that spectrum, what kind of materials were in the stars and then what kind of star they were. See? So that is how we do it. And so when we look at the spectrum of this guy, measure 13, great globular cluster in Hercules, okay, we find a tremendous amount of hydrogen and helium and not much else. And so we know that they were formed with not much else.
How do you know if a star's already been named? Is there a universally agreed upon catalog?
Well, the International Astronomical Union is responsible for naming things. So if you want to find something, say you found something brand new, and you said, I want this to be Hansen's star. And you say that to the International Astronomical Union, and you send them a telegram, an official telegram, which is how you do it, and say, I want this star named after me, I just discovered it. And they'll respond back and say, yes, thank you, we'll name it ourselves, thank you. You're not going to get named unless it's a comet. If it's a comet, you can. Now, who's heard of a guy named David Levy? Okay, David Levy is a comet hunter. I'm going to be seeing him actually in about a week or so. I'm going to go down to Tucson. I'll be there, where I'm going to go visit with him and some other folks. He has comets named after him. That's why you've heard of it. Okay, who remembers when Jupiter was hit by a comet and you actually saw the explosive burst on Jupiter and the black dots? Remember that? It was comet Shoemaker-Levy that hit Jupiter. So David was a co-founder of that comet, co-discoverer. So you see, there's all kinds of stuff that anyone can do. David uses a rather modest telescope, nothing like what we have. He uses something much smaller, and he just scans the sky.
Just because he wants it to be named after him?
No, but because he just is passionate about finding comets. That's all.
But it has to be something new. So like you can't, I mean, there's 100,000 in this cluster.
Yeah.
You can't just point one out and say that's going to be mine.
Well, you know, You have to understand that the Name a Star Foundation, remember Name a Star? We've done that.
You like pay money and
You pay money and you get a star and an official card that says what your star is.
like getting a dinosaur hunting license.
Yeah, exactly. The thing about the buy a star is that you're really not getting to name that star. You're really not getting a star. The International Astronomical Union does not recognize that at all. And they don't say, okay, that's gonna be Patricia's star. Put that down there, Frank. You know, that's not how it works. The IAU, they define the names and figure out what it's gonna be. The stars that are in this cluster, they have very obscure names, okay? You don't have stars like Betelgeuse, okay, and Canopus, and, Rigel, and stuff like that here. You have stars here that might be SAO 1, 2, 3, 7, 7, 5, 6.
But legitimately, they do try to number them, right? Because if you want to track, let's say I can identify one that's sort of right there,
Yeah.
so that I want to know if the next time I look at it, it's no longer there or something happened to it.
Yes, exactly. Many of them will have some type of designation. Now, I'm gonna bring this down as far as I can go. I want to see inside the core of this star, inside this cluster. There's a feature, and it's just by happenstance. But in this particular cluster of Measure 13, amateurs throughout the world have viewed it for more than a century. And one of the things, several centuries actually, initiated his work in the 1700s. One of the things that happens here is that sometimes these clusters produce interesting shapes, just by happenstance. And this one has one too. I'll show it to you. Here you see a vertical line right here, and then you see a little line that goes off to the side there, and then another one going off to the side there. This three-bladed thing is a little feature that is just identified by happenstance. It's how it happened. It's not a real thing, just a line of sight thing based on how we see it, and it's called a propeller. So, interesting, we name things like that, and amateurs find features that they will name. Just like the Big Dipper is not a constellation, the Big Dipper is a pattern of stars known as an asterism within Ursa Major, the Great Bear constellation. The Big Dipper is a pattern within it. So, just like the Pleiades is a pattern within the constellation Taurus. Okay, and the Pleiades is its name. By the way, Seven Sisters, the Pleiades, where else have you seen them? Yes, Subaru, that's exactly right. Now, Japanese Subaru can be translated as unity, and so they use that symbol on their Subaru vehicle. You see the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades, on the little thing. That's what those little stars are on the Subaru. Now, if you didn't know that, you know it now. That's a little bit of trivia. Right? So, this is a beautiful globular cluster. And it's something that we stack, I guess, what I can do, if I hit save on this, okay, here's what will happen, right? When I hit save, you'll see that it's gonna save. You can see a green bar across the top. It's saving an astronomical FITS file format. And I'll save it exactly as seen. Now, here's what's happening. This is what SKYWATCHER live stream is all about. Everything we do with SKYWATCHER live stream is when we save these, they go up to a server, right? It leaves the observatory, heads out thousands of miles, and goes to our server. And this photo that I just took will appear on our server in the next 25 seconds. And it'll be freely available to all of you. So if you go to SKYWATCHERlive.org, you'll be able to download it for free and see the very same picture you're seeing here. And that's what we do. And we have thousands of images up there that we've taken over the last couple of years. Again, you can look through them all. We built a database of all of our observations so we can say, how many times have we looked at the Orion Nebula, and all of them will come up. And why do I do that? I do that because we also want to do real astronomy work. What does that mean? Well, if we look at a cluster of stars, right, and we check this cluster of stars, let's go look at what it looked like in 2020, and let's compare it to 2023 and see if in the intervening 3 years any That's real. And guess what? All of you can do that because we make it available to you. So if you have astronomical projects, if you have ideas for what you'd like to do, you know, I'd like to see if the Orion Nebula has changed over the last 3 years in some way. You might be the discoverer. And now the IAU will name something after you and give you all that credit. And you'll just have to share it with me. I'm kidding. I would never take that from you. So that's cool. So you can get Hansen's star.
Well, here's another question for you. So, the number of people in the world that have this amount of education and experience like you do, and the equipment to do it,
Yeah.
I would guess would be a very, very small percentage of people.
I would guess you're right.
So, if you're like not doing something full time where you're in front of a telescope, you know, like 10 hours a day, which you can't do unless you don't ever sleep in the night,
And that can happen.
or you review it later. Like, what are the chances, because we talk about near-Earth impacts and how they're missing stuff like asteroid meters that are heading our way, what are the chances then that we could actually have, you know, a collision with something that we don't notice, or just a scientific discovery, like you just said, putting things up and comparing, like, oh my gosh, this major star that we've been looking at for decades is suddenly gone because there wasn't anybody to check up on it, you know, like consistently.
That happens all the time. This supernova that we just looked at was discovered by an amateur who just happened to be looking at that galaxy one night and said, hey, that doesn't look familiar. And it turned out that that was unknown until then. So it could have gone unnoticed. There are galaxies out there right now that are having supernovas occurring that are going unnoticed because of that. We can't cover everything. And you're absolutely right. That is happening. However, let's understand too that the minor planets that are out there in the universe right now, in our solar system, the minor planets like the asteroids and things, like the one that killed the dinosaurs. Okay? We want to find that killer asteroid. All right? The James Webb's going to be helpful to some extent, but we want full system scans, right? Well, that's something else that we can do because we have lots and lots of data that you can pour over from several years. And those people that want to do that can actually use our data to figure out if there was a minor planet that went missed. You look at the same stars field, the same thing we're looking at, and if you saw something else in it, the next time there was a little dot. Well, wait, let's check on that and make sure that wasn't a planet, a little asteroid moving through the field that went unnoticed. I won't notice it unless it happens like right away and it moves fast. We had one like that a couple months ago. We actually watched right there on the screen live while we were doing 1 second shots of an asteroid moving right through the field. It was one of the ones that came between Earth and the moon. It was one of those near-Earth objects. And we saw it moving through. And that's chilling when you consider that this asteroid was only about 7 meters large, 7 meters in size, right? So maybe 25 feet. But that could do quite a bit of damage. If it enters your atmosphere and it's something that's made of iron, that could end up coming right down and striking our planet in some way and might not all burn up. And if it hits a city, oh, okay, bye-bye. A lot of energy is released by these things when they come in there.
And are they, you know, kind of dividing and conquering? Why don't they, do they have a system in place to say like, okay, we have X number of astronomers who are capable of doing this. Why don't you take this quadrant and this is just your responsibility to look for new things in this area? Because it seems like it's just sort of haphazard and you're like, yeah, an amateur astronomer found this thing that NASA missed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, can't they divide that up and that would be their job?
In some ways that they try to do that now, but it's not the easiest thing to do. Because the astronomers are a tricky bunch.
Kind of, you give them like a NASA t-shirt or something.
Well, or
An official badge, like, this is your quadrant.
a mug from like NPR or something.
Yeah.
We're going to do one more object to show you because I promised it. So the telescope's going to start moving. You're going to see it go. There it goes. It's moving out. And this, I'm gonna get rid of our stack here because we're done with that.
Why don't
And
you tell us where your telescope is located?
sure, it's actually in, a location that's just west of Phoenix by 75 miles. It's actually on protected land, so I can't, even I need permission to go see it. I know. Okay. This, oh, I want 7 seconds. So, and there's 7 milliseconds here. There we go. I'm getting there. We're getting there. All right, so we'll move her north a little bit. Yeah, it's just about getting the full, so it's gonna be difficult, but you know what? It's gonna look like a spotlight here right now, because even in 7 milliseconds, it's pretty bright, but you can see the terminator here. Let's reduce the gain or the sensitivity of our sensor right here. Okay, and there's your moon. Welcome to the moon, folks. Watch your heads, watch your step. Just keep your hands and feet in the car at all times. So, here it's not quite full, but this moon, and I was told that some folks are coming in to kick me out, but don't worry, you can always check and watch online with us. We do these streams on every clear night that we have, and when I can stay awake, okay? Because I also work with my visual effects company and my model making for the Navy. So I do that during the day, and at night I do this. So I really get maybe 4 hours of sleep a night. And that's what I've been doing, huh? And let me tell you, I can't get enough of this stuff. You know? And, you know, going back to that Titan submersible issue, there was a million reasons why that should not, why that wouldn't work, and I knew that, and I didn't communicate anything, but that's just because I sort of found out after the fact how it was actually made, and then we were like, oh my gosh, it's the worst possible way to make a boat. Well, anyway, going into space and losing your helmet is less dangerous than what they did down there Titanic. It's a vacuum out there. There's a dang vacuum out there, boy. And you will, but you know, it doesn't happen at once. And there are cases where people have been exposed to pure vacuum for a short period of time. You can't be exposed to 5,000 pounds per square inch for any amount of time.
I thought the one person that NASA tried that with died. They had 100% vacuum in that building.
I remember that experiment, okay? And that guy actually, he didn't die right away. Okay, that's the thing, okay? But astronauts out in space, if they have a leak or if they are exposed to vacuum for a split second, it's not like they blow up, you know? It's not like Total Recall where, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's face is all big. No, you don't see that, okay? But it can be, it's more survivable than being in the deep ocean. So somehow space, as hostile as it is more survivable than the deep ocean. I'd rather go to space than down on the Titanic. Thank you very much.
Doesn't mean.
Any questions before we finish out tonight? Actually, that's a great question. Thank you, by the way. That's a good question. Yeah. We get past 100%, and we are way far into the point where the telescope is beyond its capability to focus, because you're not seeing so much stuff. Okay, and because the temperature change up, the temperature temperature in the building, temperature in the building out there right now is 31 Celsius. So it's pretty warm out there right now. It's still in the 90s out there. So, but it does drop over the course of the night and the focus changes. You know, so technically, I probably, let me guess, lights on, Kmart shoppers. Yeah. That's okay. Well, anyway, guys,
Jesus.
I hate to say it, I hate to do it, but,
That's
I
nuts.
guess we're done. Thank you.
That's fucking crazy.